Father Time makes fools of us all. It's always painful to see the superheroes of yesterday suddenly begin to slip down into, well, nothing more than pedestrian.
But here it comes.
Doesn't look like Cam's going out there. I mean, I don't know. At this point, you're trying to figure out what the plan is for next year.
For football fans, few things are tougher to watch than seeing some of your favorite players suddenly reach the twilight years of their career. The game film does not lie, folks. The plays in this video are evidence that these 10 former NFL superstars are no longer in their primes. These guys simply don't have it anymore. Ben Roethlisberger. What is this? Many thought Ben Roethlisberger should have retired after the 2020 season. Though the Pittsburgh Steelers won 12 games in the AFC North Division title, it was mostly thanks to their defense. Truth be told, Roethlisberger's limitations as a passer held the Steelers' offense back. But Big Ben ultimately decided to come back for one last run at a third Super Bowl championship in 2021. The Steelers obviously wanted to be loyal to their QB, even though injuries and age had clearly caught up to him the year before. And sure enough, Roethlisberger announced that 2021 would be his final season. His lack of arm strength and accuracy forced the Steelers to run the same old predictable short passes and screens that often went nowhere. There were a lot of plays that visibly showed that Father Time had caught up to Big Ben. But this careless interception against the Cincinnati Bengals was one of the most glaring signs that proved he no longer has it. That was a great contradiction to the old Ben Roethlisberger. You know, the one who was able to extend plays by somehow evading oncoming pass rushers before spotting an open receiver, kind of like he did here back in 2012. Richard Sherman gets his ankles broke. There was a time where Richard Sherman was by far the best cornerback in the game. The glue of the Seattle Seahawks' once vaunted Legion of Boom defense was capable of shutting down half the field all by himself. He often talked a big game and almost always backed it up. Just when injuries and age seemingly led to the end of Sherman's prime years, he turned back the clock and earned a second-team All-Pro nod for the San Francisco 49ers in 2019 en route to a Super Bowl appearance. Sherman missed most of the 2020 season with a calf injury. He went unsigned through the first month of 2021 before finally signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had mounting injuries at cornerback. I mean, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Tampa needed fresh bodies, and Sherman was a superstar in his last healthy season. But Sherman proved to be a massive liability in a Tampa secondary that was often picked apart by opposing quarterbacks. Not only is he far from all-pro form, but Sherman is barely starting caliber anymore. For instance, this juke from the Bills' Dawson Knox made Sherman look silly. Should we remind you that Knox is a tight end? This would have never happened to prime Richard Sherman. Almost had him, Richard. Cam Newton, no longer Super Cam. Cam Newton's piling injuries and contract prompted the Carolina Panthers to release him in the 2020 offseason. The New England Patriots took a chance on Newton in 2020, signing him to a cheap one-year deal. However, a lack of quality pass catchers prevented Newton from getting much of anything going in New England. Newton then went unsigned throughout most of the 2021 season. But with Sam Darnold struggling, the desperate Panthers decided to bring back the 2015 MVP on a one-year deal. There was plenty of hype around Newton's return, and lots of hope that he'd regain his previous form now that he was reunited with the team that drafted him first overall in 2011. But no, Matt Rule's offense just wasn't able to function regardless of who was under center. Newton unfortunately showed that the injuries and age had quickly caught up to him. His slow release and horrible accuracy on this play against the Buffalo Bills is a shining example of how Newton is clearly no longer Super Cam. It's always tough to watch some of the game's most dominant players decline so quickly. At this phase, Newton is gonna have to accept a backup role if he wants to continue his NFL career. And Kyle Fuller can't keep up with Mike Williams. The cap-strapped Chicago Bears made the curious decision to cut Kyle Fuller after making the postseason in 2020. The two-time Pro Bowler signed a one-year deal worth a shiny $9.5 million with the Denver Broncos, reuniting him with head coach Vic Fangio. For those who didn't know, Fangio was the Bears' defensive coordinator during Fuller's best years of the Bears. The Broncos had also drafted Patrick Surtain II and signed veteran standout Ronald Darby to complement star safety Justin Simmons. The Broncos suddenly had an elite secondary that seemed capable of locking down the high-powered AFC West offenses in KC, LA, and Las Vegas. Well, Fuller unfortunately didn't come as advertised for the Broncos. He saw the lowest snap total of his career and was only used sparingly by Fangio. Mind you, plays like this go to show why the Broncos couldn't trust Fuller enough to be a regular starter. And that was the play that essentially put the dagger in the Broncos' 2021 postseason hopes. The data from the ever-reliable folks at Pro Football Focus doesn't lie either. Fuller isn't even close to what he used to be. It's a shame. As you can see in this clip from a 2018 game against the Miami Dolphins, Fuller was once among the NFL's best in coverage. Ah, those were the days. Dwayne Brown gets wrecked by Whitney MERCILUS. Russell Wilson and Seattle Seahawks fans are certainly tired of being reminded about the team's horrendous offensive line. Once again, the superstar quarterback was held back by anemic pass protection, which led to Seattle's first losing season under number 3. For as bad as the Seattle O-line was, veteran Pro Bowler Dwayne Brown has been a mainstay since coming back to the Pacific Northwest in a trade back in 2017. Brown gave the Seahawks 3.5 excellent seasons, but the 4-time Pro Bowler hit a wall in his age 36 season and became the latest victim of Father Time. According to Pro Football Focus, Brown only allowed 3 total sacks over the 2019 and 2020 seasons. Well, he more than doubled that in 2021, proving that he's no longer one of the game's elite offensive tackles. Pre-2020, Dwayne Brown would have easily taken care of business, rather than get taken to school here by Green Bay Packers pass rusher Whitney MERCILUS. Well, Brown's prime years were fun while they lasted. CJ Mosley rocked by Melvin Gordon. The New York Jets signed former Baltimore Ravens star linebacker CJ Mosley to a massive 5-year, $85 million deal in the 2019 offseason. Needless to say, the contract has looked pretty regrettable so far. A groin injury limited Mosley to just 2 games in 2019. He opted out of the 2020 season because of the COVID-19 pandemic, so 2021 was Mosley's first real chance to prove his worth to Gotham. Well, Mosley's production with the Jets has been lackluster, to say the very least. In Baltimore, Mosley flew all over the field and always seemed to come up with clutch game-changing plays. The Jets haven't gotten any of that from Mosley yet. Check out this touchdown he surrendered to Broncos running back Melvin Gordon in Week 3. The Ravens version of Mosley would have slammed that door shut rather than get run over at the goal line. Jason Peters. Too easy for Myles Garrett. Jason Peters is a first-ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. The 9-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle has carved out a pretty special career considering he went undrafted and actually started out as a tight end for the Buffalo Bills. For more than a decade, Peters easily took care of the opposition's pass rushers. He made life so much easier for his quarterbacks and running backs. It's honestly pretty amazing he's managed to play this long. But in reality, Peters would have been better off retiring after the 2020 season with the Philadelphia Eagles. According to PFF, he surrendered 8 sacks that season, which should have signaled the beginning of the end. However, the Chicago Bears were absolutely desperate for help on their wretched O-line. They brought in Peters on a 1-year deal, but that experiment didn't go so well. Myles Garrett pretty much sums it up with the way he owned the 39-year-old on this play. Hey, if it makes Peters feel any better, Garrett does that to pretty much every offensive lineman he faces. AJ Green. Turn around, man! The Arizona Cardinals signed the former Cincinnati Bengals star receiver to a low-risk 1-year contract worth $6 million guaranteed. Green was coming off a disappointing final season with the Cincinnati Bengals, but Cliff Kingsbury and his staff believed they could help him reemerge as a top wideout. Green's tenure at the Cardinals was hit and miss. He occasionally made the big plays, but he wasn't much of an impact player when superstar DeAndre Hopkins was on the field. Perhaps his most memorable play of 2021, however, was the catch that never was, if you will. The then undefeated Cardinals hosted the Packers on Thursday Night Football in Week 8. Trailing by just 3 points late in the fourth quarter, Kyler Murray pieced together a surgical drive and led Arizona inside the Green Bay 5-yard line. On a 2nd and goal situation, Murray threw a pass to the veteran Green, who never turned around. Worse yet, the ball took an unlikely bounce and fell into the arms of Russell Douglas. What a painful and heartbreaking way to endure the first loss of the season. The AJ Green we know would have made that catch 10 times out of 10. Julio Jones. Jones was the NFL's best wide receiver throughout the 2010s decade. He had another stellar year in 2020 despite missing 7 games, hauling in 51 catches for 771 yards and a trio of touchdowns. But Jones's injury history, age, and issues with the Atlanta management led to him being sent to the Tennessee Titans in an off-season blockbuster trade. Perhaps a fresh start would help Jones return to elite status and an offense with Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry. Well, no. In the Titans' Week 1 opener against the Cardinals, Tannehill wasted little time trying to find Jones, but the former star was unable to haul in a catch that he had made countless times in Atlanta. Well, nothing lasts forever, and that unfortunately includes prime Julio Jones. Patrick Peterson loses DK Metcalf. Peterson's play with the Arizona Cardinals regressed mightily throughout the 2019 and 2020 seasons, so it was an easy call for the Redbirds to let the 8-time Pro Bowler walk in 2021 free agency. The Minnesota Vikings were desperate for cornerback help and decided to hand Peterson a 1-year deal in free agency, but predictably, Peterson was unable to play up to his previous standards. 2021 was yet another frustrating reminder that Peterson is no longer a superstar corner who can easily lock down the opposition's top wide receiver. During his prime years with Arizona, Peterson would rarely give up an explosive play, but times have really changed since 2019. In the Vikings' Week 3 game against the Seattle Seahawks, Peterson was tasked with going up against a familiar foe in DK Metcalf. Let's just say the advantage easily went to the third-year wideout. The move Metcalf pulled off there would almost never work on Peterson. Even the great Calvin Johnson couldn't escape Peterson's coverage on this similar route back when the Cardinals and Detroit Lions met in 2015. In his prime, Patrick Peterson was something else. But those days are long over now. But which other NFL superstars look washed up in 2021? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.